All right, hey everybody, let's try this again. Apparently my mic was switched to the different mic, so nobody was hearing me when the first few minutes here when I was talking. This is Adam Kett here with Quality First Real Estate, coming to you on one of our first training sessions of the year. And today we want to cover Property Valuations 101, basically how to do a CMA. One of the reasons we want to make sure this is our first training of the year is because we're going to have an opportunity to do a lot more of these here in the near future because of our new home showrooms that both our Clovis and our Fresno office are opening. Noel, as we speak, is literally picking up the new signs for our outdoor displays, and they're gonna attract a lot of attention. And hopefully our goal, as long as they're successful, is we're gonna have people walking in the doors asking about new homes, about their home. And listen, quite frankly, a big portion of the buyers out there in the world are also sellers who have something that they're going to want to sell or need to sell in order for them to buy their next home. So having the ability to do a successful CMA is really, really critical. Okay, so let's start with the basics. What is a CMA? CMA stands for Comparative Market Analysis, or Comparable Market Analysis. You'll hear both terms. And what that really means is it's just a process that we go through as real estate agents to determine what the current market value of a home is, or a property. It's really a crucial tool for listing agents as they price new homes for sale, as they are looking for comparables and things like that. Unfortunately, this skill is not taught in our pre-licensing classes, any of our continuing education that we have to do. And so this is a skill that we have to learn from experts like myself. Why am I an expert? Well, I spent years and years working for a company called Land America Default Services. They sent me to appraisal school, and I actually spent a year in the field with an appraiser, and I did property valuations quality review for the company. We did appraisals and broker price opinions, BPOs, nationwide, and I ended up being the head quality reviewer for the company. So I saw tens of thousands of appraisals and BPOs cross my desk, learned how to do it, had to teach people how to do it. And after I got my real estate license, I spent the first 3 years doing nothing but BPOs. I didn't really do sales. And so I've done a lot of valuations. I can do them in my sleep, and that's why I'm teaching the class. So anyway, why do you guys need to learn this? There are a lot of reasons that that you need to learn it, but really for all intents and purposes, the biggest reason is that it can help you to get more clients. One of the biggest tools we use these days to generate seller traffic is offering a free home valuation to anybody who asks for it. And being able to successfully do that, to show somebody your process, and to arrive at a really good value, gives them the information they need to make the decision to sell. And of course, if you're providing that to them, they'll hopefully choose you to list their home for them, which is what everybody wants. Okay, how to do a CMA. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and send a link in the chat. How do I do the chat here? There it is, it was hidden. All right, here is a link to a document that I put together for everybody in our Google Drive. So you can download that and look at it and have it as a really good reference guide. But that's basically the template that I'm going to be using today. So if you guys wanted to click on that, pull it up and follow along, that'd be great. All right, so step number one is gathering the data. You're going to want to figure out what the property is. What's the address? Where is the location? You're going to want to gather all of the major details of the home. You're going to need the square footage of all of the dwellings. So maybe it's a multi home, like maybe it's got a mother-in-law quarter and a single family detached home. You're going to need to know how many bedrooms and bathrooms it has. You need to know the lot size or the acreage count. You need to know what year the home was built. Then you need to ask questions of the homeowner. Recent renovations, things that you can't find out on public records, like, did you just remodel your kitchen? That's pretty critical. Interior upgrades, things like, granite counters and new appliances, plus any big improvement that is present on the property, i.e. an in-ground pool, maybe a barn or a shop, etc. Right? You get the picture. So once you have all of that critical basic information, then you want to dive into like the tax information. So in our MLS, in the Fresno Association of Realtors, we use a program called CRS. It's available right there in your MLS. You click on the tax little icon at the top of your MLS, you'll pull it right up and you can do a search for the property by address, homeowner name, APN if you have it, and that sort of thing. All right. So when we pull up the tax card data for the property, it's going to enable you to compare what's in the public records versus what may actually be there. And sometimes there are discrepancies. You find that a lot in the newer construction. They may submit their plans and the county recorder's office just takes all the plans data, but those plans may have been a little off. It may only have 2 bathrooms, not 2.5 bathrooms, and things like that. So just make sure you're comparing what the reality is versus the what the tax card says. You're also going to want to pay attention to maybe the tax rate. Here in our community, it's not as critical, but in other communities, like for instance, we've done transactions in Gilroy and Sacramento and all over California. You're gonna really need to know what that is, because if there are differing tax rates for different properties, there might be a difference in value that you're gonna need to take into consideration. What's the zoning? Is it single family, residential, or is it multi-use? Is it industrial? Is it commercial? All those things are really big factors. And then you're going to want to look at the assessed value. The assessed value is not as critical of a feature that you're going to want to pay attention to, but it is something there that you can say, okay, well, they're being taxed based on this value. And then in our area, sometimes you'll find if it's grandfathered in from a long time ago, the assessed value is way off. But if it's had some recent history, you'll know, you'll have a better gauge of using that or not. Okay, so that's where you get the tax card, compare and all that. Step number 3, you're gonna wanna gather any and all history, sales and listing history of your subject property. Search the MLS for the subject property address. You'll find that most houses have changed hands in the last 10 or 15 years. And having the history of that home can give you a good reference on any major changes that have occurred since then. Now, here's a quote from an appraiser that you'll see on the doc. It says, the most important factor in determining the market value of a house is the market itself. If you have a buyer and a seller who have agreed upon a sale price for a particular property, you've got direct evidence as to what the market will bear for that specific home. Pretty interesting, right? Oftentimes we wonder, well, why do the appraisers always come right at contract value? Well, most times they do, because of that very principle in and of itself. We have 2 parties who've agreed that this is the price that the home is worth. We have one person willing to pay it and one person willing to say, yep, I'll take that. So that's enough evidence, typically speaking, for them to arrive at that value. But the appraiser's insight is one of the reasons we want to look to the past and see what the sales and listing history for the subject is, because using sold data is really, really important. If your subject property, for instance, changed hands like 3 years ago, and the general price of homes in the neighborhood has risen about like 6%, the previous sold price and the general movement of the market can be combined to kind of give you a general market value, right? So that's a really good indicator that you can use to get you kind of in the ballpark area for what you're at. Step number 4, we want to look at recent sold comparables. All right, so now we've talked all about gathering all the information for the subject property. We have all of the subject property details. We have looked at the tax card. We've done a search for its past history. Now we want to find other homes that have sold in the last 6 months to a year that are just like the subject property. So how do we do that? Again, in your MLS, you're going to want to do a search. I typically will use the interactive map search myself. I like that. It gives me the ability to do a radius search if I want to, or lets me draw a specific neighborhood. Let's say there's a big geographical barrier like a freeway, for instance. We have the 41 here in our area, the 168, the 180. We also have big major roads that may do a difference, like going north of Herndon, for instance, seems to be kind of a factor. So if you have a house that's just on the south side of Herndon, you may only want to search in that south area. But I get astray a little bit there. We want to use our MLS and search for homes in close proximity to the home. That's the principle. The closer it is, the more like it's going to be. You want to search at first, and our MLS is defaulted to search sold 6 months out. So you don't have to change that if you don't need to. You'll want to narrow down the search to like the top 4 or 5 sold properties that are as close to the subject property and have the most shared features. Okay. That's right, Barry. Zip code can also make a difference. So if let's just say I'm on the west side of Clovis, I'm in 93611, and then a couple blocks away is 93626, for instance, or 726, for instance, right? So that might make a difference. You're going from Clovis to Fresno, even though they're in close proximity, you may want to only use the Clovis comparables, that sort of thing. Okay, you're going to have to use your own knowledge and discretion when you're determining how far out to go, or if you need to differentiate between specific neighborhoods or locations. So very good point. Okay, so when we talk about doing a sold comparable search, the basic principles are go back 6 months, out to up to a mile if you have to, and then choose the closest, most similar properties you have. Okay, so now remember, this is a comparison. It's a comparison market analysis, right? You're comparing other properties to your subject. So in a perfect situation, you'd have model match homes. All right, so we have lots of new constructions happen in the last 15, 20 years. So in these tract home communities, you'll find a lot of the same homes that are sold. So in an active market, it's very common where you'll find a perfect match. It's the exact same square footage, lot size, floor plan, etc. Right? The only outlying will be condition or upgrades and things like that you'll need to adjust for. Okay. Big ticket items are going to be square foot, bed bath, year built, lot size, followed by improvements, and then interior appointments, so like upgrades inside, like granite counters or wood floors and things like that. Okay. All right, let's move on from solds. After we gather our sold data, we then are going to need to find active listings. And as of the 4th of February in 2021, you may say, what active listings, right? So yeah, this may be a little challenge right now. But why do we need active listings? Again, sold activity, sold comparables are in the past. They're the recent past, but things are changing on a rapid basis. So this is your sold data. If you find all your comps that are mostly 4, 5, 6 months or up to a year out, the market may have changed a little bit. So you're going to have more adjustments to make. Whereas active listings, they're not necessarily put in concrete for their value, but they're really good indicators as to where the market's at right now. So We want to look at the current for sale homes. In our MLS, they're flagged with a green color. The active listings are all green. Now let's say, okay, well, there's not a lot of active listings out there, Adam. Well, then we use pending listings. They're under contract, but they haven't sold yet, and you can utilize those as well. All right. Step number 6 is micro market trends. You're like, what? That's a fancy term. What does that mean? Really, it just means what's going on in the neighborhood. What's happening locally? Is there anything going on right now that's going to affect the value? For instance, a couple years ago, I sold a big lot on Sierra Avenue between Fowler and Armstrong, or whatever the next street is. And that was sold to a developer. So now you've got this really big, oh, Noel's coming in. Welcome back, Noel. You've got this really big, had been vacant lot in this community. And, oops, hold on one second. I'm gonna mute myself. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Okay, micro market trends. If you've got a built-out community with a big vacant lot in it, and the developer is all of a sudden going to be building out new homes in the neighborhood, that might change value a little bit, right? If a local school has been undergoing a massive renovation, that renovation may make the neighborhood more desirable and things like that. So really the question you want to ask yourself is there anything happening in the immediate area of the subject property that would drive the home price up or down? And then if so, how much, right? That's pretty much it. So examining the micro trends, take into consideration those things. All right, step number 7, almost to the end here. We want to put it all together, okay? So far you've done a really good job. You've done your research, you found your sold and active listings, considered all your major factors that will affect the value. Now what? What should the value be? Okay. Well, let's start at the beginning with your subject data. Okay. Based on its history, any improvements in market increases, decreases, what should the current value be based on that factor? Then you consider your comparables next. Set aside the number you arrived at from the subject property stuff. What are the sold and active listings telling you, right? If you look at them as a group, you're gonna find, the median price, a high price, a low price, all of those things. And typically, 1 or 2 of each sold and active are going to kind of rise to the top as being the closest matches, okay? Those are going to carry more weight. See a little picture of the scale on the doc I put in there. They're going to have more weight in your valuation opinion than maybe the other comparables, okay? Lastly, go ahead and consider the microtrends. If there's anything that's affecting the value right now, consider that and add that into the mix. After you've analyzed the data, you should be able to put it all together and arrive at a reasonable and justified current market value. So, saying all that, I will say that one of the things I didn't include in this CMA is the price per square foot factor. Okay, so every home has a sale price and how much square footage it has, and you do the math on that, you'll come out with how much per square foot the home is. So you can oftentimes, you'll take a group of comparables, find the median price per square foot in that neighborhood or in that group, and you can multiply that by your subject square feet, and that gives you another indicator as where the market will yield for that type of home. So you can also use that if you're struggling to arrive at a value.
Yeah, that's sometimes a hard and fast way if you lack a lot of the access to other data for you to get at least a ballpark. I always kind of use my price per square foot before Adam trained me a lot more on this stuff, to be honest. But I kind of started at that price per square foot and use that as my median marker, and then kind of figured, am I better or worse than the average property?
Yep. The challenge with using price per square foot is that when you have a disparaging size difference between comparables, right? Let's just say all of your comps are 4-bedroom, but one of them is 1,500 square feet, and you've got a 2,200 square feet 4-bedroom, right? There's a big difference there. Now, you might have a 4-bedroom home, but it's a small 4-bedroom home, so its price per square feet is probably going to be a lot higher than the big home. So the larger it is, the less per square foot it's going to be, typically speaking, unless you're in a crazy market, which people are asking the world now. So, and Barry says, I like to start at a price per square foot as well, and then adjust depending on the subject's home's overall quality. Yep. So in a cookie cutter neighborhood, the price per square foot is pretty simple, tried and true way of coming at a really quick value. The process of doing a CMA, however, can you unmute yourself or mute yourself, please, Noah? Thanks. Get an echo. The process of doing a CMA and why we want to be able to put a comprehensive report together, we're going to talk about here in just a little bit. Well, right now, actually. We want to be able to present to a homeowner a concise but professional looking report that not only displays, I'm an expert, I know what I'm talking about, and it explains to them the process that you went through to arrive at this value. That's going to give them a lot of confidence in what you have to say, right? And we want to make sure, go ahead.
It is one of those things that your value, your experience has to resonate, right? It has to show through. Just like when we talk about any of our other sales training and stuff like that, having using a credibility statement. This is your credibility statement in coming up with their value, showing the process of getting there. It's like showing your work in a math assignment. Otherwise, maybe you cheated, right? So maybe you don't really know what you're doing, is what the teacher's thinking. So this really shows your client that you got there, and the opportunity for them to bicker or not trust in your valuation skills goes away, and your relationship is going to be on much more solid ground going forward.
Absolutely. And I think you cheated. You looked at my notes and you used the math teacher example before I could. That was not fair. Cheater, get cheater pants.
I didn't. I didn't.
But yeah, no, absolutely right.
I'm not right though.
Being able to show your work is super important, right? All right. So at this point, you've gone through this big giant process. Your desk is covered with MLS printouts, right? You got your browser who's got 12 tabs open. You know, you've been really pouring over all this stuff. Now what, right? So packaging your results is one of the critical things. Now, in our MLS, there is a CMA tool that is okay. It's free to use. You can print out all your comparables and it packages it. It's got your icon on there or whatever you have loaded in the MLS. So there is that free tool. There's also another free tool offered through the MLS through RPR, and I will tell you that it's not my favorite, even though it looks really good. It's robust, it's professional, it's super sharp, but there's a lot of fluffy stuff that they add into your report that turns into be like 30 pages long, and it's filled with real estate jargon that your client probably doesn't even care about. And so if you're going to use the RPR, I would highly recommend you really scale it down and only include the critical and important factors in the report, right? So take out a lot of pages before you put it together. When I do a CMA for a client, I have cardstock back. I've got a glossy, clear cover, and I put the little binder clip on it and make it look really, really sharp. I don't have any examples here, but I'd show you. But you can do this. We have all the tools here at both the offices, or at least the Clovis office right now has the binding tool. So we can get those reports done, sharp, clean, put them in their hands. You look like a rock star, and that's really, really what we want. It's gonna increase your client's buy-in on what you have to say for you as an agent, and yeah, that's it. Just use the KISS method. Keep it simple.
Think about that as your business card. Okay, I love that. I remember back in my mail machine days, I had these big printed things, and I was like, you know what? I don't need business cards. This thing's huge. It's great. It's got all my information, and make sure that that represents you really well. Make sure it's got all your pertinent marketing stuff available, your information available, and you know, one thing I would want to be doing is getting the opportunity. We want to cross references with getting them in KV Core, and getting them in the tech platform, and being able to schedule every time you work with a client. Sorry, I'm going to jump into the sales part of this. Every time you work with a client, you want to make sure the next step in the process is ironed out. You don't just give them this report and let them walk away. I mean, that's like throwing the worm into the lake for the fish to just swim away with. You need to get the hook and make the appointment. Let's get back out there. Let me get into your house, fine tune this, and I'm going to take this little spread of what do you think your average spread on an appraisal is, Adam? $10,000 from this to this?
You talking about the spread between comps and value?
What your estimated value is.
Honestly, there's no real true answer, but I'm normally able to get it down after adjustments and everything within 10 grand. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and yeah, you're probably more accurate than that, but the reality is it's just an opportunity to get, have another meet with them and say, you know what, I'm still really confident about that value, or I'm, you know what, we had a model match to sell in the meantime, and this is it. And I think we can do that value, or whatever your strategy is going to be, but at least you get out there and get back out in front of that prospect one more time if you haven't already signed them up, So think about that and make sure you're creating as many opportunities as you can to get in front of your clients.
Absolutely. All right. So any questions out there?
So I'm assuming, and I apologize, I missed part of this while I was out getting our signs. So this is happening, people. We've got great sidewalk signs. I don't know if Adam was able to cover that. We've got these signs. We are inviting people in, and that's why this training was so critical to get done right now and make sure everyone's really comfortable coming up with this. We've got great 2-foot by 3-foot signs saying agent on duty, walk-ins welcome, get a home valuation. So we're going to have people wanting this information. We need to be prepared to do that. So that's where I was this morning. I didn't know they'd be done so early, and I wanted to make full use of them today. So that's why I wasn't able to be a part of it. But now that I've danced around all that stuff, the question is, what do we do when did we get a chance to talk about if I'm not finding good comps? There are no other sales in my quarter or half mile at this time.
Listen, a lot of that is generally covered in the document that I share with everybody. Honestly, if you come into a massively difficult, just call me and I'll walk you through it. 95% of the time, you're not going to have too many troubles. But when you do, it can be. Hopefully you're hearing me through Noel's microphone.
You probably were.
95% of the time, I'll just repeat myself. You're going to find no problems with finding comparables. But if you do, and you're really struggling on arriving at a value, just call me up. I'm more than happy to do a one-on-one with you to help you out on an individual basis, and we can work through it. So, but yeah, hey guys, listen, we're about out of time for our allotted Zoom recording time. Hey, we're here to help you. We can do more trainings on the specific platforms. I will say that as a plug to KV Core, there is an add-on. It is a cost add-on, so you have to buy it. They have an amazing a new CMA program built into KV Core called Dash CMA. And it is pretty automated, but it allows you to also choose your own comparables. But it has an amazing, robust report built into it, and it's something that you can use in conjunction to your KV Core. So take a look at that if you're interested in that. We also have been using a company called Cloud CMA, which I love. Both of them have a digital online version, an interactive online version of the CMA that you create, and all the branding and all that all the customization is available for both of them. So those are two paid options you can do outside of the MLS and the RPR version, so which are both free. All right, well, hey, thanks for tuning in to our first of the year training, profit evaluations training. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime. And that's it. You guys have a great day.